AskReddit by Toast Boy. Pro-gun supporters, why do you support gun rights? I live on a farm, I have to protect my animals. In South Africa, living on a farm is probably the most dangerous, isolated place where you can be. There shouldn't be any crime, but hundreds of farmers and their families are murdered every year. Deleted. There's an old slogan, God made some men tall and some men short, Samuel Colt made them equal. I trust my ability to protect my family and myself more than the police who are 15-20 minutes away. I have a friend who went into law enforcement for a while and he told me it was the most depressing thing I've ever done because no matter how hard I tried I never managed to get there before whatever it was I was trying to prevent happened. Because I live where the predators eat your face while you're alive. I bear arms because bears have arms, big ones. I am from former Soviet Union country, and with the current things going on, I support everyone that has a high caliber gun at home and is proficient at it. The country also has very low gun homicide, even though pretty much anyone can get a gun as long as they meet minimal requirements. Same. When the war in Ukraine started, everyone in Poland, a very gun-free country, bought whatever they could. When shit hits the fan, you don't rely on the government or allies to protect you. Because I am a small female who will never be as large or as strong as man who wants to hurt me or my daughter. It's the only chance I have, especially when response times can be 20-45 minutes in my area. It's so odd, because I'm a 4'10" woman and carry for self-defense purposes, and I've literally been told I can't be a feminist and carry a gun at the same time. Like, why do I need to make myself a vulnerable target in order to be considered a feminist? The police do not have the legal requirement to protect me. I am in charge of protecting me and my own. And the threat out there is fully armed. So why shouldn't I be to defend myself? Protect and serve is nothing more than a PR scheme made up by the LA police. Average police response in a rural area where I live is 17 minutes. If someone broke into my house with the intention to hurt me and they have a gun and I don't, I'd be screwed. Even if response time was 1 minute, that's a long time when the intruder has a gun. My brother was shot twice during a home invasion burglary. The fact that he was able to return fire is the only thing that saved his life. Edit. I'm not going to get into the weeds with anyone about this topic. A simple question was posed and I responded with my own experience. I'm not going to debate or attempt to dissuade anyone on their or my own beliefs about gun ownership. Is he still committing burglaries? I was assaulted and nearly killed and the police showed 3 hours later. I got really into guns after that and moved out of the city. You don't realize how very little the police care. You are on your own and if you cannot defend yourself, your family and your property, you're fucked. It's that simple. When seconds count, the police are minutes away. Because where I live when seconds count police are 45 minutes away. For me, this is actually one of the more rational and reasonable arguments. Average police response time in the USA is 27 minutes. Average response time of 0.45 ACP is 950 feet per second. Edit. To everyone saying it's 5-6 minutes, that's not the average, it's the goal. The top 10 cities in the US range from 5-10 minute response times and that's the top 10. Some cities have averages upwards of over an hour. Some cities don't send anyone at all. If you tallied the average responses of the thousands of towns and cities in the USA, the average comes out to around 27-35 minutes. I did a report on gun violence and the futility of gun control laws in college and got top marks from a liberal professor. I live out in the country. If someone wanted to rape or murder me, they'd be done and gone before PD showed up. Edit. I'm not gonna answer questions or get into a debate here. OP asked a question, I answered it. I don't care what your opinion is. Okay, guns, to be honest. I know what works for my family and will continue to do it. It doesn't benefit me at all to get into arguments on Reddit over this. No one's mind is going to be changed. Some people like them, are responsible with them, and follow all the rules when purchasing and operating them. They shouldn't be prohibited from them. Edit. It's interesting how many responses to this assume that I'm a gun owner and or a conservative. In reality, I'm a queer communist who's never touched a gun in his life. I just believe in freedom of choice on this particular issue. Most people. If you take all instances of gun violence in the US, it makes up less than 1% of the people who own firearms. The overwhelming majority of gun owners will never commit a crime involving a firearm. Because I feel everyone has a right to defend themselves, and I see a gun as the easiest to use option. Something everyone can pick up and use. Sure, you can use a knife, but getting that close to someone who wants to do you harm is dangerous. Both parties in a knife fight are likely to die. Because hunting is better than factory meat farms. Anyone who's interested, please look up Pittman Robertson Federal Aid. For those who don't enjoy guns but enjoy the outdoors and conservation, this needs to be understood and respected. I like cuddling with mine. I like cuddling with this guy as well. At this point, I have almost no faith in the government. Why do I want to rely on them for safety? You can vote your way into tyranny. You can't vote your way out. It doesn't make sense to disarm civilians in the face of a violent police force. At least if no knock warrants stop being a thing. They always seem so damn surprised that people who are woken up by someone breaking into their home would shoot the intruders. Saying they're the police doesn't help much when it's such a common tactic to not be resisted. Armed minorities are harder to oppress. Citizens are armed, and subjects are not. Studies have shown that firearms are used defensively millions of times a year in the US. The right to defend oneself is a human right. No government can effectively occupy an armed population intent on resisting it. This is my logic as well. Historically, bearing arms has always been the right of free peoples. Those prohibited that right have always been at best subjects, and at worst slaves or dead. 1. Shooting is a legitimate and fulfilling sport or recreational activity. 2. Defense against animals. 3. Defense against people. 4. 911 is reactionary in nature. I have to call the police for them to come help me, and then wait for them to arrive. I have a right to not be defenseless during that time or if I'm unable to call for help. 5. I don't hunt, but it's another completely valid reason. 6. How can anyone feel comfortable in a world where only the government and criminals are armed? That's like the two least trustworthy segments of society. Not into government. Just pro higher standards and oversight for government employees at every level. 7. The Second Amendment. Edit. This is in no particular order and position does not equate to importance for me. Was going to type a response but you summed it up perfectly. I honestly have nothing to add. Thank you. People should be able to protect themselves no matter where they are. And many places, especially in the US and Canada, are far from emergency services. That extra time is the difference between living and dying for many. I'll never support banning guns. That being said, I see the wisdom in better vetting for gun buyers and certain restrictions for preventing mass shootings, etc. City life and rural life are very different, and often the great divider on subjects like this, and many others. I think it's time we stop blanket type legislation and focus laws where we need them instead of everywhere. It gives the 20-year-old girl who just got her first apartment an opportunity to defend herself against the 200-pound man trying to take advantage of her. Every woman in America should carry What else do you suggest an innocent person could use to stop a violent offender? In the UK we just use our food to harm each other. If that doesn't work, then stabbing. Because armed queers don't get bashed. Unfathomably based. Because the kings can't be trusted. All lawful citizens should be allowed to protect themselves no matter what. I haven't seen a gun control bill come down that doesn't exempt cops. And there is no way I trust cops in America with a monopoly on guns. I mean, come on. 2 words. Uvalde police. If the police aren't going to protect us, then I'd like the ability for people to protect themselves. Taking away guns is on the pathway to authoritarianism and fascism. I live in Canada. I believe the right to own and protect yourself should be a basic human right. Our self-defense laws are a joke. They need change and needed quickly. Because criminals don't obey gun laws. To genocide-proof all in the nation. The right to defend yourself is a basic human right. It should not be a party line political issue. Infringements give power to those that they do not apply to, governing forces and criminals. Guns are the modern tool to defend yourself against harm. Deleted. Armed citizens don't get forced into rail cars. I would rather have one and not need it than need it and not have it. Second Amendment wasn't made for you to protect yourself from crackheads robbing your house. It was made for keeping the government to be scared of the people, not for the people to be scared of the government. Idea of keeping the government from becoming too controlling and impossible to overthrow. Edit. Thanks for all the awards. Never had any awards before. I feel like commenting on Reddit should become my career. Although it does double as a great way to protect from crackheads robbing my house. Protection of my family and my home. I support broad rights for all people. Because responsible gun owners aren't the problem. Guns are not the problem. Bullets, accessories and modifications are not the problem. Shitty, unenforceable policies that make it harder for me to buy a gun aren't doing a goddamn thing to prevent gun crime involving guns that have been stolen. Exactly this. People who live in urban areas need to stop trying to make one-size-fits-all laws for the rest of the country. We ain't the same. 1. I want to at least have a chance to protect myself and my family from people who break the law and also have firearms. 2. I enjoy target shooting at the range and on rural land as a hobby. 3. Should I need to, I can hunt for food. 4. I believe that part of the deterrent to foreign invasion and the rights of the people being taken is the 393 million guns in private hands and the over 1 B rounds of ammunition. An invading army would be facing a population of well-equipped and not submissive citizens. A rifle behind every blade of grass. For me, it's not about owning a gun. I'm not a gun owner, nor do I plan on becoming one. I am pro-gun simply for what it represents. Our right to bear arms is a constitutional right. By undoing or changing that right, it sets a dangerous precedent for the rest of our rights. If they can take away the Second Amendment, what else will that allow them to do? To protect my home and family. In Canada we don't even have a gun issue, but our federal government is treating us legals like we are the problem. That's why I support it at this point. The only reason that our rights are being further restricted is for political leverage and gaining voters. The good chunk of the most concerning crimes aren't being committed by legal owners with legal weapons. It's being committed by either mentally ill people or just plain criminals that have purchased illegal firearms. Imposing laws that would actually help, like better screening at borders and such to prevent the smuggling of weapons, are less likely to draw media attention or the attention of main voter groups they are attempting to please. who broadly speaking are not well versed in general firearms knowledge, or on Canada's firearms legislation, and base a large portion of their beliefs upon American laws and current situation, believing that Canada is much the same. Criminals fear armed victims, and criminals will not give up their guns. I don't own a gun, but I fully support people who do and the right to own one. Banning guns only punish the good guy, and the criminal will still own a gun, whether legal or not. Was the victim of a home invasion by 4 guys in the middle of the night. Wasn't able to fight them off, and as a result, I had a gun to my head held by a person who had zero qualms about using a gun likely illegally obtained to rob me. Got beat to near death and all my stuff stolen. Fun times. A gun ban prior, and best case scenario it would have been a knife to my throat. A few years later and I had a meathead road rager twice my size smash a window all over my then 2 years old boy with a hammer and then come for me as I got out. That time I was able to protect my son and myself. 2 things to note. OP. If you outlaw guns, then only the outlaws will have guns. God created man, but Smith & Wesson Samuel Colt made them equal. Edit, corrected by a learned Redditor. Thought that was Sam Colt. Because guns aren't going anywhere. They're here, and banning them will only ensure that criminals have them while law-abiding citizens don't. This is the primary answer. Even the not totally batshit crazy moderate right-wingers I know will bury their guns in a hidden bunker and risk a death penalty before giving them up, because they know the real criminals will do the same. I'm not sure I disagree. German here. Be proud to be able to defend yourself with a pistol without problems with the law. Here you are labeled as a right-wing extremist weapon crazier, and you can either be a training device or a punching bag for delinquents who have already suffered several physical injuries. The law is also being adapted more and more from time to time, and lies are being spread about you. Because I'm a woman. Every woman should own and know how to use a gun. Screw that. Everybody should own and know how to use a gun. I genuinely believe in everybody having the ability to protect themselves, and as a minority I believe women especially should be armed. Armed minorities are harder to oppress.